Gloria, thank you so much for joining us. My first question is there any differences between a digital resume and an in-person paper resume that you think are really key that people need to be aware of?
Basically, all a digital resume is just a resume that's online. For example, you're posting it on a social media site such as LinkedIn. And you do want to be careful, a little more careful with your formatting when you're posting it online, because especially if you're applying for a position, a lot of companies use what's called applicant tracking systems. And those systems may have some trouble downloading your resume completely if you have, certain things on it that may confuse the system, if you will.
That makes sense. My next question is, should you be linking external sources on your resume?
I would say yes, absolutely. You do want to keep your resume brief. Technically, it's 1 to 2 pages. You don't really want to go over 1 to 2 pages. And links are an excellent way for you to provide more information to the employer. For example, examples of your work or more information about you. This really comes in handy when you're applying for example, a marketing position. When we interview someone for marketing, we ask them to come back for a second interview and to actually provide examples of their work to the hiring committee. So, this is a good way to get a heads up on that and just provide the link. The employer can click on it, get more information. And I think it really gives you a heads up over other applicants.
Another question that I had too is with these digital resumes, employers have the ability to search for specific words. How important do you think that is for an applicant to keep in mind?
I think it's very important because it can actually get you an interview. You are correct. We are using what's called applicant tracking systems now. And those systems, we can actually set them up to search keywords in a resume for specific positions that we're looking for. So I say definitely yes, put some keywords in. I wouldn't overdo it, but I think it needs to be specific to the position that you're applying for. And you want to make sure that your keywords that you're using go along with your experience. What you can do is I found you can search for professional resumes. For example, let's use human resources. Let's just say you're putting together your resume, you're in the human resources field, and you just want to update your resume. So you can go online and search for some resumes. There's some really good examples out there, and it will also give you some guidance as to some specific keywords that you'll want to use that would stand out for that particular position.
Another thing that a lot of people are wondering is now that we're able to kind of pivot to online with this, what are your thoughts on visual aids and things like that on digital resumes?
I think it depends on the position that you're applying for and the industry that you're applying in. You see colors a lot more frequently now than you used to in the past. It's more acceptable, if you will. I would caution if you're going to use some color on your resume, don't make it a really bold color like a red, for example, or something to that nature. Colors are associated with certain feelings and so forth. So you want to keep that in mind when you're looking at putting color on your resume. And the main reason to do that, I think, is to draw attention to specific areas of your resume. For example, education, certifications, experience, things like that. You also want to be cautious if you're using a white background, which most of us do on a resume. If you put a color that's too light, it's downloaded somewhere, it may have some issues as far as how it looks once it gets to the employer. So you do want to be aware of that as well. Again, some industries like technology and marketing, I think that they definitely like to see some more color or creativity, if you will, in a resume. Whereas other industries, maybe like legal or finance, they're a little more conservative. So I think, you want to keep that in mind when you're applying for a position, who your audience is. I think that's very important when you're creating a resume. And as far as a photo, I see them more and more. As the HR director here on the resumes that we get in, I'm seeing more and more photos. Just make sure if you're going to add one that it's a professional headshot.
Is there anything else you want to add?
You hear a lot more about creating a resume specific to the position that you're applying for. And back in the day, 5 years ago, all of us just had one resume. That's what we sent when we were applying for a job. My advice would be make your resume specific to the position that you're applying for. And it's really easier than it sounds. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. You would just create like a master resume. And then you would make a copy of that resume and you would change your professional summary. You would look at the job description that you're applying for, and you would compare your resume to that and identify areas that you have the experience in and create that resume just for that position.